Hello, this is Nick from Prog and Power Unite, and I'm speaking with songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, and multi-project prog mastermind Neal Morse. Hi, Neal.
Hi, how are you?
I'm not too bad. Let's start around talking with what's right around the corner here. You have Testimony 2 that's set to be released on May 23rd, and you're about to embark on your first U.S. tour as a solo artist. And although you recently toured the states with Transatlantic, are you excited to finally be able to bring your solo material to a new audience for the first time?
Oh man, I am really excited. I can't wait to get together and play this stuff. I've been practicing on my own, and I've done a few practices with some of the guys that are in the U.S. band that live here. But there's nothing like just getting together and playing the stuff together. Getting the live experience it's just a cool thing, It's when I make the records. It's done kind of in pieces and in parts,
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing like trying to actually play the whole thing down.
Yes,
it's a real challenge, but I'm excited about it.
Yeah, it's nothing like playing essentially an 80-minute long song live and trying to pull that off.
Right.
Right. Now, Testimony 2 is your sixth album since you left Spock's Beard, but this is now your first time touring the U.S., like I said. What has changed now that you've been able to pull this tour together where you haven't been able to in the past?
Well, I don't know. It just kind of fell together. Well, one of the things that was different for me was when I started praying about this in the fall, was that what I felt I felt something different than what I have felt in the past. I felt like to do as many as I could. So I had that in my mind. I was like, well, let's see how many, shows we can do. I wasn't originally going to even try and do a U.S. tour because, trying to fly, it was just so expensive to fly the European band over here. It just seemed to preclude us being able to do it,
Mm-hmm.
And then my wife said, well, honey, why don't you just have two bands? And I thought about it. I thought, well, I guess we can do that. I forgot about how much work it would be.
Mm-hmm.
It's because over here I'm like the musical director too, so I've kind of got to organize everything and get everybody's parts out to them and make lists of what they're supposed to play and kind of follow up with them that they have everything they need, and it's just a big job.
Yeah, whereas in Europe, Colin would take care of more of that.
Right. In Europe, Colin takes care of all of that. I mean, I just show up and play. It's great.
All right. Well, like I say, you are playing, Mike and you have both hinted that you're playing the entire first album of Testimony 2 on the tour, but without giving any more specific songs or anything, do you think the American set and the European set will differ because this is your first American tour?
There are slight differences.
Okay.
That's all I will say.
That's just something to know that we're not completely forgotten about since we're hearing a lot of stuff for the first time over here.
Right. But there is the MP3 of Testimony 1. I mean, not Testimony 1. The MP3 of the first disc of Testimony 2
Mm-hmm.
is available for free download when you order the special edition of Testimony 2 from Radio Records.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that. Basically giving that away. So because I want people to be familiar with the music when they come to the concert.
No, of course, especially when it's like we said, big, long piece. It's not like you're paying 20 minutes off of the new album. That's 80 minutes right there.
Right. Yeah, I figure people will enjoy it a lot more if they, get
definitely.
a little bit familiar with it. So.
I'll be at the New York show where it's the same day that it's being released, so it's been nice that I've been able to let that album sink in a bit already.
Awesome. Good. Thrilled to hear that.
Now, lately especially, you've been filming or documenting your tours pretty consistently. Are there any plans in place yet for this tour to be filmed?
Yeah, we're planning on filming the LA show. We're going to film some of the warm-up concert. I think we're filming the warm-up concert here in Nashville, and we'll probably be filming at least one of the European shows as well. So.
Okay, that's
good. There's plenty of material for DVD later on.
Yes, it's one of those things where now you do it every tour, and the fans just kind of expect they're going to see something.
Well, that's good. That's good. I'm glad that they're expecting good things. Yeah, I'm looking forward to all of that.
All right. Well, we're on the subject of the tour, and I mentioned I'll be at the New York City show City show, so I have one last question regarding the tour. Will you be bringing extra microphones?
Yes. Yes, we will. That was amazing. Yeah, they didn't have any more microphones.
Yeah, the Transatlantic show in New York City, for those who don't know what we're referencing, there was a little blowout there of your headset mic, and it was fun watching the band try and run around and figure out what was going on.
Yeah. Yeah, the venue was like, we don't have any more mics. You guys cleaned us out. Yeah, so we did some kind of jam session for quite a while, as I recall, while they tried to get me a mic.
Yeah, pretty much. It was a lot of fun. It was different. It was a unique moment on the tour.
That's true. That's true. And I believe my keyboard rig went down several times as well. That I remember just having a lot of gear trouble.
Yeah, well, it's bound to happen in the course of a tour.
Yeah, that's true.
Now let's talk a little bit about the actual album. Now, you had said back when Lifeline came out, you had stepped away from longer songs and the concept album. Was this kind of a reaction to that? Did that freedom that album gave you tempt you to continue this huge, long testimony story?
Well, it was nice to have a break from the concept albums with Lifeline, but then I dove right back into it with the Whirlwind. But it was a little bit different because the other guys were so involved, there was so much help there.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I wasn't sure, when I sat down to write Testimony 2, I didn't know it was Testimony 2 at first, you set out on the adventure, you have some music ideas and you're not sure what they're supposed to be or where it's going. It's like getting on a country road. You're not sure exactly. You think, well, I think this is going to hook up with the interstate somewhere, but I'm not sure how we're going to get there. And so I began to just try to put these music ideas together. I didn't really have a direction, and I got an email from a friend in Holland in November that said, "Have you thought about doing a Testimony 2? The Apostle Paul gives his testimony 3 times in the book of Acts." And I said, well, I haven't thought about it, but I'll think about it. I'll pray about it. And so I spent several days thinking and praying about it, early morning walks and meditations, and began to feel like, there was a thing to do. And so I took all these ideas that I'd had over the whole summer while I was working on my book. I had a lot of music coming, but I didn't have any time to work on it,
Mm-hmm.
And so I took all those ideas and began to formulate them into Testimony 2, and that was really how it happened. It all came together in the second half of November and beginning of December. And then I realized, man, if I'm going to get this thing out when I want to with all the other projects that I have going, we're going to have to do the drums and bass before Christmas.
Yeah.
And here it was the first week of December, and I didn't even have demos yet. So we crammed it all in. I mean, Mike and Randy only got the CD like 5 days, I think, before the tracking sessions. It was very, very fast and furious, but we managed to do it.
Wow. Now, what you had said leads into another question I had about the lyrics for Testimony 2. I had seen some fans who got the Radiant download were a little confused, or it wasn't what they expected because people just assumed that it would kind of be a continuation of the Testimony story. And it's not that simple. It's not just tacked on to your recent years. Can you explain a little bit how the Testimony 2 story works into the overall story?
Yeah, sure. Testimony 1 starts out with me in California, California nights and all that. Mm-hmm. And then, goes on into my misery, really, there, and goes kind of deep into that. And then on disc 2, I moved to Nashville. And then I kind of fast forward really right to, when I become a Christian, really, in 2001. I really just skipped over all the things that happened between, like, 1996 or 97 to 2001, 2002, that period.
Mm-hmm.
And so Testimony 2 looks in depth into that time. So that was when Jada was healed. My daughter was healed of a heart condition when she was born, and that was in 1998. And then it talks about me being in the Eric Burden Band, and then how great that was at first, and then wanting to be home and praying, asking God to help me be home, and then feeling like God answers that prayer. And so it goes through delivering me out off the road, and then it also and then at the end it talks about me quitting Spock's Beard and going on, after that. So it looks in depth at those years.
Okay, now that leads me to another question here. The song Jada and the story of Jada seems to be such a crucial part of your story and a turning point for you, and it's one that you originally told on the Testimony Live DVD. But being as it does seem so crucial, is there a reason why that wasn't included on Testimony 1?
I don't know. I mean, it wasn't till I'd kind of finished writing it. I thought, I didn't tell that, and you think of the things that you didn't tell. There's so many things that I want to talk about what God's done.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe God was saving it for this album. Because I remember when it was done, I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. That's such an important part of my story that I left out. And but I feel like it fits just beautifully into this album.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Now, musically speaking, there are several obvious reprises in Testimony 2, but at the same time, while a lot of the album has the vibe of maybe Lifeline or Sola Scriptura, I'd say it also seemed to tap into some of the musical elements of the original Testimony album. Was that intentional to try and go back to where you were musically once you know that's what the project was going to be?
Well, in my first draft of Testimony 2,
mm-hmm.
I didn't have any themes from Testimony 1. That was really Mike's idea, and then Randy latched onto it, and when they came right before Christmas, they had mentioned that, Mike had mentioned that in an email. He said, I'm disappointed. It's like there's nothing from Testimony 1. If you want to have a real sequel, you got to have some elements from the first,
Yeah.
And so that was really their idea. And then we just brought all that stuff from Testimony 1, the idea of starting with the theme that really closes Testimony 1, that starting Testimony 2. And then Mike had the great idea to call it Overture number 5, part 5, 6, and 7. Isn't that right? Or 6, 7, and 8, or whatever it is.
Mike always does seem good for, things like reprises, those general musical ideas. He is a great director in that sense.
Oh, he is, yeah. I thought all that stuff that he came up with, like, as far as it making it more of a continuation, thing, it's just brilliant.
Yeah.
I got to give credit, hats off to him.
Yeah. Now, like I say, there are those specific reprises, and were they more of a musical thing, just a neat idea, or is there a lyrical connection there? Like when you hear a reprise, is it saying you should associate this song with this part of Testimony 1 and the lyrics speak together?
I don't know. I mean, basically Testimony 1 had been written, and then we rearranged some things to start off with with the theme from Testimony 1, and then we just kind of thought, as we were working on it, we would just sort of think, maybe we could throw this, what Randy would say, maybe we can throw the da-da-da theme in here. And I go, oh, yeah. And so we kind of work on how to do that and then how to get back to the original version of Testimony 2. So it was really kind of just a sprinkling of musical ideas mainly.
Okay. Now, like we said, this is now going to be the third full disc, second album, and third disc chronicling your story. And in addition, you had mentioned you'll be releasing a book called Testimony. Do you think now, with all this material available, your story is going to be complete, or might there be a Testimony 3 at some point?
That's up to the Lord, There could be. I mean, there's always more going on. There's, our life story isn't done. It keeps going. It goes on. And then after we're gone, our kids' life story goes on. So who knows? I don't know if there'll be a Testimony 3. We'll have to wait and see about that.
Now, this new album, Testimony 2, especially deals a lot with your time in Spock's Beard. And when you had originally left the band, there was a lot of shock and sadness, and now you have those guys appearing on Testimony 2. What was it like to work with them again?
Well, it was awesome. It was all really over email. because, Nick's in Europe somewhere, and Dave's in Sacramento, and Al's in L.A., and I hate to disappoint everybody. I mean, I wish that I could actually get together with all these guests.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the guests, with the exception of a few, did their parts at home. I sent them music, and they did their parts at home, and then they sent me the tracks.
Okay.
That's the way Steve Morse did his solo, and that's been going on for several years. It seems like there's fewer people are actually getting together in studios, unless you're going to write together or something.
Yeah.
Usually for just like kind of a solo or a small vocal part or something. I sent them the tracks with their part on it, and they sent it back. They sent me back their tracks with them singing it.
Okay.
And but I'm so grateful that they did that. It's so a great thing to hear. To me, it's like you're watching a movie about somebody, and then they show up in the movie.
Yes, it seems fitting.
And it's like, oh, there's the guys. There's the actual guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool. I'm really grateful that they did that.
Now, one of the things you had mentioned early on in the Testimony 2 process, back when you were recording, was that Mike Portnoy had done your all-time favorite fill. And given how much you worked with Mike Portnoy, can you tell us now which fill you are referring to?
Oh, my all-time favorite fill. Oh, wow. Probably the one in "Oh Lord, My God."
Okay.
But at first I didn't like it. And he asked me if he could buy it off me for $50. He paid me $50 while I leave the fill.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and so I did, but then I came to love it. It's the one in the bridge of "Oh Lord, My God."
Okay.
You're like da 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 da. And originally I just had straight triplets going down the toms,
Oh, okay.
But he does this weird. It's this weird timing thing, but it's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, you've often said that, not that you have to rein Mike in, but, a lot of times for your solo albums, it requires simpler parts, so I can imagine that there can be that friction between what Mike Portnoy naturally wants to do and what you think fits the song better.
Yeah, but we usually agree.
Yeah.
We usually agree. He has great musicality, and he knows when something should be more simple. He knows.
Yeah. Oh,
Mike pretty much produces himself. He really does. It's like he listens through and he makes notes and he fixes his stuff, and I've just learned to just trust him because he's right. He's great.
Now, you've expressed over the years a proficiency with music and lyrics that is almost beyond question. Now, how hard was it to switch to prose after all these years and to finally write a full book?
That was hard. Writing the book was hard. There was many days when I'd get up and I felt the Lord at my back, like, write it, work on it, and I was just like, oh, this sounds so lame. Who cares? Who cares about any of this stuff, when you're writing about your own life, and, especially, a book, it's long,
Mm-hmm.
A song is one thing, but, like a whole book of, every detail of the story, it's like, it can get very tedious and very difficult and often sound very self-absorbed,
Yeah.
And, so it was a real challenge. It wasn't like music that has a kind of flows. Although I did get in a flow, there was times when I really got into it.
Oh, good.
Like when I was describing the setting. I had this interesting experience as I was trying to describe what the places were like, for example, where I first met my wife, what the bar was like in California,
Mm-hmm.
trying to describe the place like a real writer would,
Yeah.
like what the walls looked like and what the people were like and what it smelled like and the music that was playing and all of that, all of those kind of details.
Maybe just a refreshing step away from here is me talking about me.
Yeah, well, that was more enjoyable. Like getting into like really describing things and trying to put people there.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this interesting experience during that time. I went down. My pastor was actually having an operation, so I went down to the hospital to be supportive and pray for him. And I walked into the hospital room, and I realized my senses were heightened. You know, because I was thinking, I was noticing how the people actually looked and what they were wearing and what the room was like and all these kind of things that I don't normally notice. But because I was writing a book, I was more aware.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You were used to writing those details, so now you wanted to look for them more.
Right, yeah, it just happened naturally. You know, and so that was really cool. And there was parts of the writing the book where I really fell into a flow. Yeah. It wasn't all a struggle, but there were parts that were a struggle, you know, like, and the general process was a tough one for me. And, but I think that it came out good. I feel really good about it now, and especially because the early reviews, people are, you know, being blessed by it. You know, a lot of different friends and people in church and things have been saying that they really felt like they were touched by it, and that's mainly what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, you know, people to be really touched by it. So if that happens at all, even to one person, then it's worth it.
Oh, that's good. Now, is there anything, you write music so often, and it has to be a fulfilling process for you. Is there something new that the book, something that you don't get from music that you found writing the book did for your personal fulfillment?
Well, I guess one of the things would be that.
Okay.
You know, the heightening of the senses thing. I mean, that's pretty cool. It's really a kind of a deeper life.
Yeah. You're
really aware of what is going on around you and what things are like. I don't know. That was pretty cool. That's a cool thing. I'd like to hang on to that. I don't know. I don't know what else I learned. There's a lot of things in the book that I dug into that I began to have a clearer understanding of. Sometimes life's just sort of happening to you, and you take a step back and you start writing about it and looking at it. I feel like I have a more clear understanding about what was going on and what God was doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good. It's not just with books, but recommend that if you take a step back and write down your thoughts, you'll be able to examine them more clearly.
Yeah.
Are there certain aspects of the book that you think maybe help fans or people understand things that they may have previously struggled with, like you're leaving Spock's beard and that? It's one thing to put in music, but do you think that the book format will really help people understand where you were as a person and help them understand why you've made the choices you've made?
Yeah, I think so. Sure. I mean, I go into great detail about all of those things.
Good.
You know, so I think that will help people to understand where I was coming from, you know, and where I'm coming from, and what was going on, and hopefully they'll be able to relate some of it to even their own experience.
Good. Now, I'd say that if there's three main points that people know about it's your amazing ability to turn out great music, your devotion to God, and your devotion to your family. But beyond that, will there be what will be talked about in the book beyond the obvious?
Well, they'll learn, you know, all about all kinds of crazy stuff that I did when I was young. There's all kinds of kooky stories in there. You know, I ran away from home in Oregon. We were building a house in Southern Oregon, and we lived in California, in Southern California. I stormed out of the house over a Risk game that I was mad at with my brothers. You know, we were fighting, and I stormed out of the house barefoot and with no money or like not even a wallet, and I hitchhiked from Oregon to Southern California at 12 years old.
Oh my God. That is amazing.
So you get to hear all about that, about Barnaby the goat, that the guy who picked me up hitchhiking, that took me all the way to San Jose, how I shared the front seat with Barnaby.
Oh my God. Well, I'm certainly looking forward to reading this.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff in there that you wouldn't have any idea about. I try not to dwell on things for too long.
Oh, good. Well, now, like you say, now you have the Testimony to album and tour, you have the book, so much going on, but aside from all that, you've also been working on something with Steve Morse, Portnoy, LaRue, and McPherson. Can you tell us what the progress has been on that?
Yeah, actually, Casey is here in Nashville. I haven't seen him because I'm so busy. I'm busy doing interviews and doing other things. Casey's here doing his last little vocal changes, and then we'll begin the mixing process, and hopefully, if all goes well, the record will be out in the fall.
Oh, very good. Now, there's artists you've worked with before, Portnoy many times, and then there's some you were less familiar with. How did all the people come together for this? How was the cast assembled?
Well, the first thing that happened was that Steve and I were feeling to work together. Mm-hmm. We have Bill Evans manages me and does PR stuff for Steve, and he's not Steve's manager, but he does PR work for him. And so through that connection, we began to talk about doing a record together. And then, Bill had this idea of putting together like a group, like a group of prog musicians, but making an album that maybe was a little more accessible. I don't know what you'd compare it to, but something a little, more song-oriented and kind of a little bit of a super group thing, and so he had really masterminded the thing, and it was he that brought in the producer Peter Collins, who'd produced Rush and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And so it all came. It took quite a while, but it all came together, and that was how it started.
Yeah. Well, I think the album that most people, once they read the studio updates, were comparing it to was Asia, in that it was this great group of prog musicians, but the only difference with Asia was, we know in advance it's going to be something different.
Right. Yeah, it's its own unique thing. You just have to hear it. It's really cool, really, Casey McPherson is just has such a cool vibe, and it's just a real, what would you call it, amalgamation of all these different people and their styles, and it's a very unique thing. I think it's really cool.
Portnoy's updates from the studio, he was updating us daily, and he seemed so excited for such a diverse range of music. It just seemed like everything that could be in there was going to be in there. Yeah,
it runs the gamut. It's great.
Good. Now, aside from that and Testimony 2, and you've just done Yellow Mutter Custard, is there any other projects in the work we need to know about? No, I don't think so. I think that pretty much covers it. Yeah, I think that's going to cover it for the year. Oh, there is one thing. Transatlantic, there's going to be a release of the Tilburg DVD from the Whirld Tour from Holland. The show, but the night before we did the London show, we did this show in Holland that was really, really special. Mm-hmm. And then the audio from the Manchester show that's going to be out in the fall. Oh, very good. That's something that caught me completely by surprise, and it kindly lends into my next question here while we're on your other projects. For Transatlantic, it was 9 years, and then you had a new album, Whirld Tour. Now that it's all behind you, what would you say was the impact of that album and tour on your life?
Well, yeah, it was amazing. It was an amazing time. It was last year at this exact time. I think we were in Spain or something last year. Mm-hmm. Right at this time, and it was really powerful. Great experience. It taught me a lot. I learned a lot. God's teaching me through other people. He has a way of doing that. So yeah, I learned a lot of really, really good things. And got closer to the guys in Transatlantic than I think we've ever been before, and felt like it was a real blessing to me and my family.
Okay. Just one other question I had with the album, The Whirlwind. Whereas Testimony 2 and your other solo material is very much God-focused, the Transatlantic material is not secular per se, but it's a little more detached. Is there any? Is it ever tough to reconcile your lyrical vision with those of the rest of the band?
No. That's what's so strange. I keep thinking that there'll be some kind of issue there or something, but there never has been. I mean, I was concerned about that on Bridge Across Forever because I thought some of the lyrics that I was writing, I asked one. I remember asking him, do you think this is too Christian? You know, the Stranger in Your Soul lyrics,
Yeah.
And he was like, no, I like it very much. I think they're feeling those things, I was wondering if Dancing with Eternal Glory was going to be maybe too much, But I just kind of wrote what I felt from my heart that was the right things to say, and I sent them lyrics. I sent them the lyrics, and they all said, great. So that's kind of how it's gone. It's been great.
On the subject of Transatlantic, I have one other question that prog fans will require me to ask, and that is, do you think there will be another Transatlantic studio album?
Well, I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me.
All right, that's good enough. In hopefully less than 9 years this time, but we just have to see what the future brings, I guess.
We will have to see what that's the excitement, right?
Exactly. Now, there's one other question here aside from everything else, and that's, now that Portnoy is a free agent, have you considered just putting an addition onto your house so he can move in there?
Yeah, I don't know. That'd have to be a pretty big addition. Where does a 300-pound gorilla sleep? Oh, yeah.
All right, well, I would like to thank you very much for taking the time to talk with me, Neal. I hope the Testimony 2 album and tour are very successful. I look forward to seeing you out on the tour, and I wish you luck with the Morse, the Portnoy, LaRue and McPherson project, and God bless.
Thank you very much. God bless you, man.
Have a good day.
You too. Take care.